The latest creation that we did tries to respond towards the spiritual value of craft. Craft has always been very closely intertwined with spirituality. In the past, coming from Indonesia, that it's a country that's still close with its tradition and culture, a lot of people use craft as a way to express their sense of awe and wonder towards power that they cannot really understand. It sort of creates a very complex relationship between the person, the object that he makes, the understanding that they get from it, and then alongside from that, there's a lot of wisdom and knowledge because it's sort of like an expression to something that is greater than oneself. Usually, it drives the crafter to create something, the best version that they can make. Within the whole process, the wisdom comes in from understanding the type of material that they can pick, understanding the season in order to know when is the right time to harvest certain materials, and then ultimately understanding the condition of the soil, the season, the animals that also lives around it, etc., etc. So if we look at how modern way of craft making is, it's very systematic, it's very efficient, but at the same time it's very commercial oriented, or just monetary value perspective. So by doing so, it is very efficient and very effective, but at the same time it loses a lot of wisdom and knowledge within the whole process. So that is one of the concerns that we feel, that certain objects, it can either be seen only as an object that has a commercial value, or same material, same shape, but has much more value when it's somewhat intertwined with spirituality. So this piece was sort of taken inspiration from altars in a lot of Chinese families, and I see that those altars, even though it's only made out of wood or maybe a bit of marble or stone, it acts almost like a portal to keep the gates open between humans in Earth and beyond. And so looking at the world's condition now, where there's a lot of destruction towards environments, even people don't treat other people well enough, I feel that maybe there isn't a good enough reason to create something that acts as a gateway, perhaps, to for humans to have better conversation with nature. So here the legs are intentionally made in such a way to sort of remind people that it might look or resembles like an animal's leg or a branch of a tree, and the curves on the sides of the edges sort of symbolizes roofs of temples or places with cultural significance. So here we do want to remind people that I think we are so disconnected with nature that we need to engage it in a little bit more better way. I think understanding it from a scientific perspective is good, but then there's also different other ways, different perspectives, and ultimately different values. And I mean, as far as I'm concerned, we cannot live without nature. So the rice there is just also a symbol that maybe perhaps it's still okay to put the photos of our grandparents if we want to pray for them, but maybe it's also a good idea to actually, well, not just to pray for nature, but to re-engage the connection within. And the piece is called Jiwa. Jiwa in Indonesia translates to spirit or soul. Yeah. So Indonesia is very rich with natural resources. We have plenty of natural materials or local materials, craftsmen. We're also very wealthy with tradition. Now, I think one of the things that we need to learn from, let's say, the global design scene is the sense of imagination. So, sense of imagination is not really about what sort of shape that I can turn this craft into, but to imagine what role, let's say, Indonesia can play in the global stage. What is the future of designers coming from countries with, let's say, slightly closer relationship with culture and tradition should act in the global stage? I think those are the bigger questions that we need to ask, and I think we are still suffering from this post-colonial syndrome where we have this sense of inferiority that we need to overcome. So I think to have a better way of looking at things, to have a better understanding on what role to play, I think that is something that we need to learn. The other thing that we also need to learn is that Indonesia is sort of struggling in identifying what Indonesian design is. For a country that has 17,000 islands with 700 languages and hundreds of dialects and subcultures or sub-ethnicity, I think we should get over the fact that design should be identified simply from its national boundaries, but it should be more focused towards the relationship between the people and its place and the culture that binds it. And I think in that way maybe we can also liberate ourselves into not just identifying ourselves just simply as one country in terms of a visual or a design identity, but we can move forward from it. So recently, 2 years ago, we collaborated with an indigenous community based in central Borneo. They are one of the finest rattan weavers I've actually ever seen. But at the same time, they're also threatened by modernization and the fact that the younger generation, they lack pride and they don't see any future of becoming a weaver. This sort of triggered me and also almost turned into somewhat like a calling that I feel that as a designer we should play a big role in this. Throughout the years, I was taught and educated to design products that sells. That is the purpose of a designer, basically, in the industrial setting. But now I understand that there's a lot more bigger and more complex issues. If we keep on designing things that sells, but at the same time it disconnects people with their culture and their nature, then we're also not contributing to solving the problem, basically. So so that was a big milestone for us, and we felt that now with the pieces that we create, we need to have a better, stronger intention. We need to understand the complexity of the social and economic and cultural problems, and we need to unlearn a lot of things, including we need to break away from this Indonesian design language or identity. So I think there's a lot of breakthroughs in terms of the thinking side. Now it's only a matter of how to put them into practice, and hopefully that can steer the trajectory of the industry to be better. In the business for 18 years. It's been quite of a roller coaster because it's a really challenging part on not just understanding the market, but understanding myself as a designer and what I want to do in the industry. So I think by having shops open and closing, and at the same time showcasing our pieces through the world stage in Milan, in Paris, and other places in the world, that really shows us that gives us a better picture on where we are and what we need to do. I think countries like Indonesia or Singapore or even other countries, neighboring countries in Southeast Asia, we're somewhat like the gatekeeper to traditional culture, and these are the last treasures that keeps us who we are basically as an identity. And so we just recently opened a gallery in Jakarta's Indonesia's design district in Jakarta recently, and that gallery serves as an experiential space where we would like to showcase the insights and the wisdom that we discovered and learned from traditional communities, and the gallery also act as a bridge on how to have all of that or most of them articulated so the modern people that lives in big cities that can understand. And so the bigger goal, I think, is also to get other people to collaborate and to raise more awareness towards this. I think there's going to be a big shift, or I think the big shift is already happening, since people are becoming more aware about climate change. They need to live more sustainably. And I think now there's also better awareness or better understanding that we need to learn also from the past and other, let's say, more traditional cultures. So I think it's going to be very interesting. I'm very also interested on what other roles that I need to play, because so far, like, I'm wearing different kinds of hats, and I think we need to do that if we really want to try and solve the bigger problem.